if you do the right things for the right reasons, everything else will take care of itself. And it's maybe a little bit idealistic or naive way of thinking about it, but broadly I believe it's true, right? We do these things because they are the right thing to do, and over a long time scale, it ends up being the correct business move to make.
Welcome to Long Run Labs, a weekly podcast from the team behind For the Long Run podcast, telling the stories of those running the outdoor industry where endurance and entrepreneurship meet. Quick word about the huddle before we get into today's episode. If you're building a business, you already know how isolating it can get. You're making decisions daily that most people in your life don't fully understand. And the surface level networking stuff, it rarely helps. You walk out of those rooms with a stack of business cards and none of the clarity you actually needed. What my co-founders Jason Fitzgerald, Ross Yellen, and I are building at The Huddle is different. It's a peer advisory community built for early stage founders who want real accountability and real conversation. You get placed in a small cohort of people across different industries who actually have decision-making authority in their businesses. You meet monthly, you workshop each other's problems, and you build the kind of relationships where someone will tell you the thing you needed to hear, not just what sounds good. There are in-person sessions here in Boulder and virtual cohorts open to founders anywhere in the country. The three of us started The Huddle because we wanted this and it didn't exist. If you're at a point where going at it alone isn't working, or you're ready to level things up in your business, go to findmyhuddle.com and fill out the application. Link in the show notes, and we'll be in touch from there. All right. We are back in Tahoe with Sierra and Vivek on Long Run Labs. Vivek, thanks so much for taking some time to chat again.
Absolutely.
I think this is your third appearance?
Third time.
On the ecosystem of Long Run Labs and For the Long Run?
Yeah.
What's new?
What's new since the last time was I took over at San Francisco Running Company. It's now been 6 months since I bought this store, almost to the day, and it's been quite the adventure.
Why did you want to buy a running store?
It came up last year sometime. I've been working for a number of years in the tech industry, and at some point I realized I wanted to spend most of my time outside of work, or more of my time outside of work, on communities and things that I was passionate about, right? And the store community around San Francisco Running Company has been part of my running journey for over a decade. Have been close to the store since I used to run the North Face races back in the mid 20-teens, and so it came up as an opportunity, and I jumped at the chance to kind of put, my efforts into developing that community and building it.
What piece of the running ecosystem does Run Specialty play?
It's the last mile, if you will, the closest connection to the customer and to the communities that they serve. Shoes are very personal. It's very difficult to tell from an online listing or an Instagram marketing post whether or not you're going to like running in a shoe, right? A spec table about shoes can only tell you so much about how it's going to feel.
Yep.
Right? Will it fit your foot? Will it feel good on the types of terrain that you like to run? Any of those things. And Run Specialty, I think, gives people a chance to try those shoes before they commit to purchasing them.
I had a 3-year relationship with Puma, and many of the ad reads that we did on For the Long Run over that period was go into your local Run Specialty store and try them on yourself. Don't go to the website and buy it. So it's one of those products that, to your point, is better purchased in store versus online for sure.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it that Run Specialty plays a significant role in, especially in the trail world, is helping guide the customer into what types of shoes that they should be considering or trying. Now we have so many different types of trail shoes, right? And it's, high stack, low stack, plated, non-plated, so many different types of foam and innovative materials for the uppers, different lacing systems, you name it. And you walk in as a novice and it's a little intimidating, right? Because there's this huge matrix of choices. You walk up to a shoe wall, there's a
How do you know what
lot
to
of
pick?
different, there's, 4 rows of a lot of brightly colored shoes that all look various levels of all-terrain, and you kind of need, or in some cases want, that guided experience, right?
So how do you as the store owner think about buying shoes? How do you buy for the store?
It's interesting because I think as someone who's been in the space for a while as like a runner and enthusiast, and also just like a hardware gear enthusiast over my life, it's something where I love the latest thing, right? If you want to talk to me about Dyneema or TPE foams or what type of plate you're putting in your shoe, I love talking about all of that, and shoes that are doing different and interesting things at that front edge of innovation are super interesting to me. And so I always want to have those shoes in the store and be able to offer that experience to our customers and our community. The flip side of that is the mainstream part of the market isn't there, right? You have to carry a lot of your traditional staples, your speed goats, your 1080s, your glycerin, Pegasus, you name it, right? Like you have to carry those because that's what a lot of people use day to day. And even people that are really into the tip of the spear shoes.
I mean, the Speedgo is the most popular shoe ever, I think.
Ever? I don't know.
Trail shoe,
certainly.
Yeah,
trail shoe, certainly. We obviously sell both trail and road, and so I'm like, I think we sell a ton of 1080s and stuff as well. But regardless, it's like you have to have those, and you have to know what those customers are going to walk into your store looking for.
Right.
Or, your hospital staff walking in looking for a Clifton or Bondi, things like that. And so it's a little bit about making sure you have the products that your customers want and understanding what your community is really looking for.
And so on the flip side, you're bringing e-commerce into the mix with SFRC. What led to that decision?
SFRC has always had an e-commerce presence, and it's been small but steady, right? Mostly focused on our own branded products, right? Yep. SFRC branded hats and t-shirts, as well as, a very small set of our apparel and shoes, right? Typically, higher end things that are limited release or otherwise, right? Radical Airflow being a recent example, but also things like Ultrafly or the Nordo 005. I wanted to open up our customer experience to enable things like order pickup, and also enable, people from outside the Bay to really be able to purchase from us, right? And hopefully we give them a good reason to support our store, and bring in that way. And so the goal over the next, really near-term future here is for everything you see in the store to be available for purchase online, or nearly everything, and have that really be a seamless experience across, in-person and online sales.
Is the e-commerce side something that you're wanting to build up broadly for customers to come to you that don't live in the Bay? Or is it more of like people who want to transact with SFRC can do so from anywhere in the country, right? Like I think of a Heartbreak Hill Running Company, for example, that people love that brand and they like buying that branded gear, but they also sell shoes, and you don't have to love the brand to buy the shoes from. Like, is it both?
It's a bit of both. I don't necessarily think I'm trying to turn into
like an
online retailer, right? Certainly we are first and foremost always going to be a running store just off the trails in Mill Valley, right? And that is who we are. That is what defines us. This just allows customers outside of our immediate geography to be able to buy from us.
How do running races factor into the ecosystem?
Races have always been, core to San Francisco Running Company, right? We have long partnered with a number of local races for things like bib pickup, and increasingly over the last few years, training runs, right? So we offer, we partner with race directors to essentially bring their team into the store, their vendors and sponsors in, to provide kind of a touch point before the race, to interact with their racers, so that it's something more than just like, okay, you signed up for something on Ultra Sign Up, and then 6 months later you show up at a start line, right? You get to interact with them in person a couple of different times between now and then. And then, that expanded into, we'll do bid pickup, and, offer kind of an integrated experience there where, you come to pick up your bib for the race, and any last minute essentials you need, whether that's, I need a sun hoodie because it's going to be hot this weekend, or I need to pick up a few extra gels because, I'm running low and I want to make sure that I have everything I need for race day. During the pandemic, we took over a women's half marathon that had existed in San Francisco. For a number of years, Nike had run a road half marathon in San Francisco. Solomon then picked up a trail half marathon, or started one, and ran it for, I believe, 1 year, and then kind of let it go. And we picked that up and kept it going, right?
Before your time there, right?
Before my time, right? This is all, call it 5 years ago.
Yep.
And what we've done since then is kept that women's half marathon going as a little bit of a neighborhood trail race, right? It had a bit of support, and we wanted to keep it as a very community led feature where, we could bring people to the store and have the race like that. What we're doing this year, and what we've just announced is, or just opened registrations for, is that we're kind of going back to a high caliber race where we're bringing in, a name brand sponsor, North Face, who's, really supported our vision in doing this, and a large prize purse to really turn this into one of the premier short distance trail races, and certainly one of the premier women's only trail races in the country.
So you're doing two things with that I noticed that are both similar and super different at the same time: large prize purse and lots of support for parents. Can you talk about both of those choices?
Yeah, I think, something that's been a hallmark of a lot of the races that I've loved to participate in is that you both have incredible racing at the front of the pack, and you have just a great racing experience for your other 95% of the field, right? And that's something where you have to make the race, there's a couple of table stakes, right? Have it be well produced. Obviously, in the Marin Headlands, we have the advantage of just beautiful trails.
Trails are incredible,
right? Yeah. And that always helps, right? Having a gorgeous setting goes
the
a long way.
marketing does its own. Yeah, it works on its own.
Yeah, the setting is just so incredible. But you also want to make sure that it's an accessible race for somebody who's, just coming into trail running, or running their first race, or in this case, running their first race postpartum, things like that, where you really offer support for people. And with this race, what we're doing is we have a childcare grant. So, we take that out of the equation a little bit, right? Like really reduce the barriers of entry, or the points of friction to running a race. We're also developing a 12-week free training program in the lead up to the race. And that's something that, we want to make sure that if it's your first trail race, this is something that you can show up at the store and, train with a group of people. Figure it out,
yeah.
Right? And you have a guided program led by a professional coach who can guide you through this experience and make sure that you're prepared for race day.
What does that lead to?
The goal with this race is really to have more participation for women in trail running. I think trail running has long been a male-dominated sport or activity, and there's been a number of efforts over the last number of years to improve that, and bring more women into trail, spotlight women doing incredible things in trail. And I think this is, just another effort, trying to build on the efforts of those that have been doing this work for so many years already.
We are just wrapping up TrailCon here in Tahoe, and a lot of the conversation, particularly prodded by Ian, the CEO of Scratch, was around there's so much focus on this pie and taking bites out of the same pie. And there's not a lot of discussion around how do we make the pie bigger? How do we bring in people from other places or introduce them to this pie? And I could use some apple pie. So is an effort like this in an attempt to enlarge that pie?
In a capitalist society, you can boil it down to, yes, you do these things to help increase your total addressable market, right? If more women are trail running, that's theoretically more people you can sell shoes to, right, or sell apparel to, or nutrition, or whatever. I think without even getting into the math behind it, it's just the right thing to do. Right? Having more gender equality on trails, making sure that, participation is more equal, that prize money is equal, that, all of even just the considerations that go into putting on a race are equal, right? Even things like pregnancy deferrals are pretty recent as far as those things go, right? Like that's all within the last 5 to 10 years, right? 10 years at the outside edge.
Yeah.
So, just structurally making sure that all of those are we are working as a sport to do better, right, is super important. And, when it comes to how do we make this happen, I think there's a commercial argument that we as either race directors or the community have to make to brands to ensure that, they do it because in the end it'll help them make more money.
Right.
But that's really an argument for how you fund it, not a why do you do it.
Right.
Well,
it's kind of that two-piece solution where it's both the right thing to do and it financially is also the right thing to do, or a positive thing to do.
Yeah. And
so it's aligning the incentives with the goal, the end zone that we're looking to achieve. No,
exactly. And I'm someone who, I always start with, if you do the right things for the right reasons, everything else will take care of itself. And it's maybe a little bit idealistic or naive way of thinking about it. But broadly, I believe it's true, right? We do these things because they are the right thing to do. And, over a long time scale, it ends up being the correct business move to make.
So the interesting piece of that is like, it's easy to believe that that's true, and it's hard to execute that. So we were at the Matter of Brand House a couple of nights ago, and you said something to the effect of, we're talking about increasing diversity and representation in trail running. And you're like, okay, if we want to do that, then what do we actually do? And you were pressing on the brand folks in the room to answer that question. And much of that answer involves capital investment and doing things differently that won't make money in the short term, but perhaps will in the long term, but are also, again, the right thing to do. You're in an interesting position where you're not making decisions in the short term to make it as a money grab. And the way I've described your relationship with SFRC to people who don't know you is Vivek is in this really interesting place where he can do things that are right, not because they will make money, and they will make money in the long run. And but leading with like doing cool shit for the community, and ultimately like things will work out. But again, you're in a position of privilege with that structure that allows you to make that like good and right decision that is really hard for other people to do. How do you advise, or what do you suggest to people who are hearing that and they're like, yeah, I agree, I want to do that, but I work at a brand that's really focused on ROI today, and it's really hard for me to defend doing the right thing, even when it's what I want to do.
Yeah, and
what did I get wrong in delivering that?
No, I think that was a good summary. My high level, and again, this is a little idealistic, is that, brands are putting more attention into this space because they see it as a vector of growth.
Right.
As they take profits out of that, some portion of that profit needs to be reinvested into the sport. And we, as a group of individuals that make up the sport, need to make sure that that money is flowing in the right ways and is being used to build the community forward in a positive way, right? And that means bringing more people into the fold, whether that's women or whether that's, people of color, which is another, for me, something that I feel extremely passionate about. So we need to keep, to some extent, holding brands accountable for that.
What does that mean?
I think as race directors or as community builders, essentially just keep pushing brands to fund the initiatives that we care about.
So you with the North Face, for example.
Exactly.
How did that conversation go?
Honestly, that conversation went really smoothly in the sense that immediately when I brought it up to the North Face, they were super receptive and really, really on board.
Yeah.
Right. And
that's good people at the brand.
Yes.
With good leadership.
And so that was actually pretty easy in that they understood the vision and saw it immediately. Right. And from there, it was a question of logistics and, contract length and what is the, percentage of whether it's activation budget to product in kind to actually funding the race, right? As soon as they bought into the vision,
yep,
it immediately became more of a tactical, okay, how do we best optimize this so that we can kind of build this race together over a long time frame, right? And so that's not something that you can always rely on, right? There will certainly be other brands that, aren't as receptive to that.
Right.
And I think for those, it becomes a little bit more of a you have to push the conversation in certain ways. And in some cases, it's like you keep having that conversation over multiple years, or it's, maybe you're like, okay, so maybe you can't support the race, but we want to have a, summit for BIPOC community leaders about trail running. Can you help fund that?
Yeah. Right.
And all of a sudden, it costs a lot less to host something like that than it does to throw a race, right? Or it's, can we invest in a women's night and have that be sponsored by a brand, right? Or a women's trail run and have that be sponsored by a brand and things like that, right? So then you're like, okay, can we get more grassroots funding, yep, right? Where maybe you don't need to go up to like a larger, global exec level, right, and you can just fund it within your region, right? And you kind of start poking on the intricacies of how the budgeting process works at any given brand.
Do you feel that you can kind of tease out pretty quickly whether a brand is down to have that conversation or not? And what are the green flags? Right? Because there are people listening to this that are community leaders, they're building something, they are race directors. I want to help empower those people to have similar conversations to what you had with the North Face and what they're enabling you to do there. What are the green flags that you saw in that team, and what should people be looking for? How should we be positioning those types of conversations?
Yeah, I think the green flag, when somebody gets your vision, it's really easy to tell, right? That I think is pretty straightforward, right? You can pretty immediately tell when.
It's a gut check.
Yeah. You just, when you see it.
Yep.
A little bit. And so when the vibes are there, they're,
yep,
you're all of a sudden you're like, okay, cool. How can we do this thing? Right. I think Yeah, like you'll figure out the details, but as soon as they're in, all of a sudden you're both together building towards something. And so, it's when you have to convince somebody that something has value that the conversation becomes more either difficult or you have to like press a little bit more, right? And you have to say, hey, look, this will have an impact over a time scale, right? And you try to tease it out like, hey, don't just think about this as this one community engagement, right? Think about this as you're building a customer pipeline over the next 6 months or 12 months, right? Yeah. I mean, most folks at marketing brands are not thinking about that, right? Like they're like, I'm planning out my FY27 budget, and so they're like, that's when their window of time ends a little bit. So you kind of have to navigate that a bit, where you have to essentially sell them on the pipeline that you help build this pipeline, and we can convert. That will end up converting into sales, right? Through word of mouth, through direct, like people are looking and feeling and using your product, right? So that's kind of how I would say to approach it. Obviously, every region is going to be a little bit different, and every brand is going to have its own set of bureaucracies. I think the primary indicator of success is that our community feels like we have done right by the store, right? I think that's something that coming in I felt super strongly about. Yeah. This has been a pillar of Bay Area running and trail running on the West Coast for almost 15 years now. And Brett, Larissa, Jorge, Ted, the list is endless, and you can keep naming them off. And so this is something where I was cognizant that I was stepping into the shoes of really incredible people who have done tremendous work in building this brand and community. And so step one is don't break it, right? Step two is do what you can to grow and elevate the community. Make sure that the brands and partnerships that we work with are valuable and bring good experiences to our community, and bring more people into the fold, right? Make it an accessible place for people who are new to trail running. Make it a place where people who are extremely comfortable on trail, or are at the sharp end of the stick when it comes to races, have a place where they can find other people to run with and have that kind of iron sharpens iron mentality that existed back in the Brett and Jorge days. And so that is how it looks like to me, right? And to that end, it's let's sustain the business that we have and make sure that remains kind of a growing sustainably type of market. Let's make sure that we can bring in more people from the Bay Area, other parts of the Bay Area, give them a reason to
come over the
bridge and run our incredible trails and spend some time and hopefully money at our store. Give people outside the Bay a reason to come, right? So if you're visiting from the Alps, I would love for San Francisco Running Company to be one of the destinations, right? It's like, oh, I've heard of this really cool trail running store. And there's a handful of other stores like this in the world where, you go and you're like, oh, I gotta go there.
Yeah.
Right. And I would love for us to be one of those.
I mean, I bought this hat. I don't know. I wish it had a year in it, like 2016 probably.
Yeah, that is quite the throwback hat.
And it was probably, maybe 2017 when I was there to watch Life in a Day, which was, I believe, the 2015 Western States. And I remember an event that was being put on there, and I was like, I've heard of this store. I need a hat. I don't live in San Francisco, but I run on those trails. And so there's like this affinity play. And like I've literally been wearing this hat for 10 years. because I feel connected to those trails. And I've been in airports and people have stopped me to say those trails rock, or like they know it's one of those, if you know, you know. And so to go back to where we started, it's all about feeling something. And when I wear this hat in an airport, I'm signaling something. I want someone who also runs trails to see it, and so we can have an interaction. And so both of our days can be better because these two random people connected in some random place because of a thing we both like.
Yeah. I mean, and that really says it all, right? Like, I've seen our logo all over the place. I saw it randomly in, like, I was running up a hill in Chamonix at some point.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. It was like somebody that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I figured I would have known. And it was somebody local to there.
Yeah.
I think.
That's cool.
It was crazy.
This episode is brought to you by Popfly. If you're a brand trying to reach outdoor, travel, and adventure audiences, Popfly is where you should be running your creator program. It connects you with the largest community of adventure creators on the planet, people who actually use the gear, live the lifestyle, and have built real trust with their audiences. Popfly handles the whole operation. Affiliate links, discount codes, creator and ambassador collaborations, all in one place. No more chasing people down over email. You scale brand momentum, track what's actually working, and every mention comes from a place of credibility because the creators you're working with genuinely mean it. Go to popfly.com to check it out, and if you want to reach out to them, let them know that we sent you. If you're enjoying Long Run Labs, we'd love it if you took a moment to leave a review. It only takes a minute, but it helps the show reach more people like you. If an episode has helped you think differently about your business or career, made a long run fly by, or taught you something new, scroll down in your podcast app and tap those stars and write a review. Thank you for your support. The other piece that's interesting is you've been doing some angel investing, and that sits at the intersection of technology and running. Has that been intentional around using the store and using the properties as a demonstration of what you're using? Are you a customer of the thing because you're supporting, like, you believe in it so strongly? Like, is there thought around the cohesion that exists there, where one, there's kind of a flywheel?
Places where they intersect.
Yeah.
Certainly. Like, we've talked about Avelo in the past, Avelo being a smart or connected shoe, running shoe that's coming out. And you can see where that intersects with being in a running store.
Yep.
But I look at those two things as kind of separate, right? The store is a pretty traditional retail environment. And angel investing I look at as more, my own thing outside of the store. There are a few places, the race being another one.
Yep.
With Laurel, another company that I've invested in, handling race timing. And that'll be, an interesting intersection of the two. But it certainly wasn't forethought that,
Sure.
Oh, hey, I should invest in this because I have,
right,
a half marathon or, some other races coming, right? It was just, here is an incredible technology with an awesome founder that I think represents a great investing opportunity. And then it just so happens that, there's
a use case.
There's like a use case that works for me
right.
immediately out of the box. Right. So they're independent, but I think just by virtue of, I'm into the outdoors and tech, and that's where a lot of my investing is. There's, places where it will intersect with, a trail running store. Where
does your motivation come from?
That's an extremely broad question.
So you're doing a lot, right? We were talking about how you're still full-time at NVIDIA. You just changed roles there, and we just had a conversation about the fact that your boss is stoked that you're still showing up to work, and your colleagues are still showing up to work, and you have a running store and all these other things. Like, there are people who are satisfied checking one box and punching the clock and leaving it at the door. And then there are people who have this growth mindset, and there's always more that can be done. And it's not more for the sake of more. It's more because, similarly, like, I can't sit still, and I really like doing the thing. And when the pandemic started, like I started doing a newsletter because I was like, I just need more to fill my day. Where does that come from for you? Like what lights that fire for you?
I think I've been fortunate to always work on things that I'm passionate about, and I pretty aggressively chase my passions. And I think this is something that a friend said a long time ago, but it was something along the lines of, when you're into something, you're really into it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that actually really encapsulates it. I'm really into the things that I do. I've been into computers since I was a kid, and that's led to a 20-year career now in the computer industry. I think I started working in a professional capacity in this industry when I was in my, like, a teenager, right? And I'm into running shoes. I'm really into running shoes. And so that's, I think it's that, right? I chase my passions, and that just keeps you going. Because at that point, like, yes, it's all work, but none of it's really work because you care about so much of it, right? Like our group thread that is a few of us that now all work in the running industry. I think when we started texting about it, we've all been friends for a decade now, the four of us. I don't think any of us worked. We were all
adjacent.
Yeah, we were all adjacent, but I don't think any of us worked full time in this industry. Right. And now, over the course of a handful of years, all of us have real full time careers in this world. And so I think it's stuff like that, right? Where, you guys, you get it, certainly, right? You're into something and you just keep chasing it. And it grows. And so then all of a sudden it's less about, what motivates you, and it's more just like, you just do stuff that interests you, and it turns into building something that hopefully other people find value in.
Definitely. I'm curious about your own running. What's firing you up in the act of doing the thing?
I love showing up to our weekend group runs. I think so one thing that through this year, taking over the store and, putting more of my time into the store and also more of my time into my day job. One or two things that have suffered are both how much I run and how much I sleep.
You were on a work call at 9:00 last night.
Yeah, no. So but through all of that, I think I've been very intentional about showing up to Chai and Miles, which was, a very small group of South Asian friends that, we started showing up to run in the Panhandle every week at 7 a.m. on a Friday. And this was 2.5 years ago now, and we're all still going,
Great
and so
group, great route. Joined it a few times.
Yeah, and it's lovely, and it's like a great forcing function to get out and keep showing up, And the other is obviously our Saturday group run at SFRC, where it's so energizing to spend time around the community and time around the store and just see how people interact and almost just keep getting a temperature for how people feel about the runs, the events that we throw and all of that. And I think, the other part of why I love showing up at SFRC is I feel like I've been able to convince more of my friends of color to start showing up, where, just visually looking at photos and looking around when you're there, you can start seeing more people of color. And I don't want to be arrogant about it, but I think me showing up and, bringing people has helped.
That's not arrogant. That's reality.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just me, right? Like, I think it's all of my friends who decide to show up when I text them being like, hey, like, just show up because I'm here now. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's on them to show up, and then they bring their friends, and then, some other folks see that on Instagram and they're like, oh, there are more of our people who are there. And then all of a sudden you start seeing a more diverse group of people at the store, which I think has been a huge, like, that was one of the driving reasons that I bought the store to begin with was because, I love that community, but I would love to see it become a more diverse, open, accepting place for people of color on trail.
Why?
That's a good question. I mean, I think for me, I have been into trail running for so long, and I've been relatively like one of a relatively small group of people in the space for essentially that whole time, and a little bit selfishly want to see, more of my people on trail, right?
Yeah.
It's just, there's just context and cultural continuity and just all of that, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh yeah, there's people like me here, right? It's not just me. And kind of a safety or energizing factor that comes with that. But I think it's important to keep encouraging people of color to show up on trail, right? I have a number of friends who are like, oh yeah, it's a white people activity. And it's just not, right? Like the outdoors are really open to all of us. And, especially in the Bay Area, they're very accessible.
Right.
And so I just want to keep encouraging that and making it more visible and making it more normalized, so that becomes, a normalized activity for more folks of color.
I had a conversation. Thank you for sharing that. I had a conversation both on For the Long Run with Tommy Runs, but also recently here in Tahoe. And he's like, I think I'm like one of 3 Black people here in the village like this week. And he's like, so much of why I'm here is to show other people that you can be here too. I didn't truly understand what that meant, what that affinity, what that connection meant until I felt it as a Jewish person, of what it's like to have another Jewish person understand where my head is at. It was a couple of years ago, and it's really fucking powerful. And so I think that to be able to have those experiences and to do it in doing the thing that you love the most or a lot, we should all push for that. And we should all put, like, I know personally the experience that running has had on my life, and I'm so passionate about representation and diversity and platforming people that don't look like me, because I know what it's done for me and the ripple effects that that's had on so many other people. I have 2 running podcasts. I'm like putting out all this content that is intending to inspire and help and teach and whatever. And I just think of like, what if more people had the ability to do that? And what if we could have that trickle effect in other cultures and I mean, I don't need to convince you of the merits of doing it, but it's more for like the people that are listening to this conversation, going back to the plea from the beginning of reinvesting those profits into greater access, into representation, into photo shoots that aren't, 6 white guys running down trails kind of a thing. Do you think it's changing? Do you think that the tide is changing on it?
I think it's changing in silos, right? Where you look at Broken Arrow, which is one of the most diverse trail races.
Brendan would say it's the most.
Yeah. I don't have the data, right, and so I'm not going to make,
sure,
it is the singular most.
Yeah.
But it certainly, of any of the trail races that I've been to, is the most diverse trail race. And
which is a low bar. To be clear,
it's not a high bar, but it's been very intentional, and something where, Brendan and the rest of the Broken Arrow team have truly put their money where their mouths are, and push that forward, right? And like a number of my Asian and South Asian friends in the Bay Area came up, and African American friends all came up to run Broken Arrow this year or last year for the first time, right? And the community has gotten behind it and kept growing, right? A bit organically beyond just, Brendan
you gotta plant the seeds.
Yeah, gave out a handful of bibs and had an entire program around it last year. And then all of a sudden it's like, beyond that, there's just a bunch of people of color who are signing up for this race because they're like, they saw their friends do it last year and they're like, wow, that looked unbelievably sick.
Yeah.
Because it's true. Like it's one of the like just crazy epic settings to run. And it's so close to the Bay Area, right? And I feel like that about the Headlands. It's just this incredibly gorgeous place to run. It's 20 minutes from your home in San Francisco.
And it's at sea level.
Right? And you don't have to go that far. You just wake up on a Saturday morning a little bit earlier than usual, right? So that's one where I think we just have to be very intentional about pushing it forward, because you look immediately 24 hours later at something like TrailCon, where that diversity is totally absent, right? Like really and truly totally absent.
Right.
Because there isn't, maybe a similar push to do it, right? And if you don't have the push, I don't think you can get organic growth beyond that, right? Like it doesn't come for free, right? You have to put effort towards it, and you have to be like pretty intentional about bringing that forward.
We were talking earlier today about maybe we do a quarterly state of affairs in running kind of a thing. And so let's kind of take the pulse of where we're at now, especially coming out of TrailCon, talking about growth, talking about where things are headed. I have my thoughts on why trail is booming right now, but I'm curious your thoughts.
I think there's interest because it's been relatively underserved for a very long time. And you have a bunch of brands seeing it as a vector of growth, right? It's incredible, feats of human endurance, which is immediately compelling from a marketing standpoint, right? You just look at
makes you feel something.
All of the, it makes, everybody feel something. Look at all of the just mainstream media that came out after Rachel won Cocodona, right? It's an incredible story, but it's also just an unbelievable feat that for most people is like, they're like, whoa, I didn't know that people do that. Right. And so I think that storytelling plus just more people getting out on trail or being trail curious, right? Road runners that are like, oh, I actually really enjoy running on trail. All of a sudden you're like, here's this group of people that you're like, oh yeah, they were kind of weird. And now you're like, okay, it's growing. And
still weird, but
it's like growing and interesting. And now you have this intersection of fashion and trail running that, a whole bunch of trail running brands are out at Paris Fashion Week.
Right.
Like
I still can't figure that out. But
like the Devil Wears Prada Paris Fashion Week, right? Like not the offshoots of that. It's like the main fashion week. And you're like, well, this is interesting. So that's where you're like, where you can start to see how trail running has started to blend into the mainstream consciousness, right? And that serves as all of a sudden brands are like, oh, we can make money on this. Like if we dedicate time and resources to this instead of just putting outsoles on road shoes, right? Which I mean, that's what trail shoes were for a long time, right? Then you start to see kind of this industry-wide, swelling, right?
What responsibility do you think runners, consumers, and brands have to kind of steer that ship appropriately instead of just the pure capitalistic, let's make more money because there are more people doing this thing?
I mean,
is there?
It's hard to really ascribe responsibility to any individual consumer, right? Because
in aggregate,
I would love to see people into trail running pursuing it for their own reasons and running because they want to and running the races they want to because it's what interests them as opposed to chasing clout. I don't love, kind of seeing a sea of influencers at like rolling up at races, right? Like, I don't know, the fact that there's like an influencer wave at some road marathons and stuff. You're kind of like, this is, I don't know. right?
But
Like
do you
maybe
think
that's not the right.
like the world majors have decided that that's a thing that they should be doing? Having influencers run their races. Like they don't need more registration for their races. Chicago Marathon, New York Marathon, Boston Marathon. They don't need more people signing up for the race. But for some reason, they've chosen that there should be additional attention on the race with some of these influencers.
Yeah, my guess, having not spent that much time looking at this, is just that, you know, the more eyeballs they have, the more they can charge advertisers or sponsors, and so then, you know,
Yeah,
it's a profit thing
Yep.
for them, right? They make more money because they can charge more for ads and more for sponsorships. I don't know that that's where we're at as a sport in trail.
I think it's happening organically.
Yeah, I think there's.
Yeah, I think we're seeing so many of these, like the Colin Quigleys, the Rory Linkletters, Steph Bruce, people who are popular road and track athletes. Beth McKenzie kind of moving over from triathlon. Heather Jackson moving from triathlon. Like these people with established and very serious audiences. Like some of those people have 250,000 followers.
Yeah.
And they're like the way that Colleen interacted with Broken Arrow. She signed up for the race the night before because she enjoyed how much fun she was having spectating the prior couple of days and how receptive how welcome she felt as quote unquote not an outsider, but she's an Olympic steeplechaser. She's not she didn't grow up as a trail runner, but she's been trail running and has trail running teammates. And I was standing around with her after she did the race. And it'd be one thing if people were saying, oh, we don't need outsiders doing the thing. We don't need people, coming in and stealing the spotlight. But it was quite the opposite. It was like, we're so glad you're here. Glad you had fun, and this is awesome. Can't wait to see you do it again, kind of a vibe.
Well, and that's how I feel like I've always felt about trail, right? In the sense of you show up at a trail race and when you're actually running the race, that's what it feels like. No one's like, oh yeah, you don't belong here. Everyone's like, everybody's too busy suffering up the hill, right? Like,
but people keep having this experience, and they're surprised by it.
Yeah, and I think at a community level, I think trail running is extremely accepting, right? Because it's always more fun to suffer together than it is in silence. And so you go and you have these in-person experiences where you all get to do this incredibly hard thing together, and it's just this great thing. And then, the flip side of it is you have some of these conversations at TrailCon where it's like, oh, is this sport getting too big? And you have, let's call it maybe a little bit more nauseating conversation having had by quote unquote the industry of like, how do we keep culture what it is? It's like, it's a weird bit of dissonance, like cognitive dissonance, because on the one hand, you're like, honestly, most of the people that I know that do this sport are very, very open and accepting, and like anyone who wants to show up should show up. Like
they're thrilled to have anyone.
Yeah. Like let's do the thing.
Black, white, green.
Yeah.
Orange.
It doesn't matter. Right. Yeah. And you're just like out there to do it.
Right.
And then you kind of have the other side of it where it's, it feels a little bit more like a gatekeeping purely in like a almost a discussion context, right? Like this isn't, like there's no running involved in this. This is like a bunch of people talking about the running.
Right.
And yeah, so it's been interesting, certainly.
Is there anything else you wanted to chat through today?
More people of color need to be trail running. I will do as much as I can to help with that. But I think it's not just on a handful of individuals, right? I think everyone in the sport broadly needs to help figure out how to kind of broaden the sport, right? And the accessibility of the sport to people of color, to women, to the less able-bodied, to all of that, right? And that I think is a mission that will take time, but we need to strive for constant and consistent improvement.
Amazing. Agreed.
Yeah.
Vivek, this has been a blast. Where can we find you on your corner of the internet?
You can find us at sfrunco.com and soon to be sfrun.co.
Nice.
That'll be in July.
Cool. Thank you for the time, and excited to share some more trails with you here soon. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Long Run Labs. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's building something of their own. We'll be back next Tuesday with more stories at the intersection of endurance and entrepreneurship from the people shaping the outdoor industry in ways big and small. Until then, keep showing up, keep asking questions, and we'll see you out there.